Mara stood by the window of her small apartment, staring at the empty street below. Every evening, the lamplight would flicker on just as it used to when Jonas walked home from school. The street was quiet and still, and Mara's heart felt heavy with loss. She wrapped her arms around herself, remembering the way Jonas laughed as he chased the stray cat across the pavement. He had moved 3 months ago, and with every passing day, the distance between them felt larger than the miles on a map. Mara tried to keep busy. She joined a painting class at the community center and spent hours brushing bright colors onto canvas. She painted sunlit fields and endless blue skies, places she imagined could capture her longing. Yet every time she finished a piece, she caught herself hoping Jonas might see it. She posted photos of her work on social media and tagged him, but her notifications stayed empty. Each silent reply reminded her of how alone she felt. On weekends, Mara walked the old playground where she used to meet Jonas. The swing squeaked softly in the breeze, and the slide was warm from the sun. She sat on the bench under the oak tree and closed her eyes. In her mind, she could hear Jonas's voice, teasing her about her slow swing. At first, the memory brought a smile. Then the smile faded into tears. She missed him so much that her chest ached, as if her heart had grown roots and left her behind. One chilly morning, Mara found a letter slipped under her door. Her name was written in neat, looping handwriting. With trembling fingers, she opened it. Inside was a small card decorated with stars, and in Jonas's familiar script he wrote, "I miss you too. I don't know how to say it face to face, but I hope we can find our way back." Mara's tears came again, but this time they felt different. They were tears of relief and hope. Jonas wanted to reconnect. Mara decided to act on this hope. She packed a small box with things they loved as kids, a well-worn comic book, a hand-painted stone he had painted in her class, and a CD they used to listen to on long bus rides. She wrote a letter of her own. She told him how much she missed their talks, their laughter, and even their silly arguments over who got the last cookie. She told him she believed they could be as close again as they once were. She took the box to the post office and watched as the clerk stamped it priority. Even as she walked home, she felt her step grow lighter. For the first time in months, she did not feel the weight of loneliness. She imagined Jonas opening the box, reading her words, and smiling. Her hope flared bright like a distant star, reminding her that connection was still possible. Days passed. Mara kept busy with her painting class and her job at the bookstore. Yet every night she checked the mail, waiting. She found herself humming the song from the CD she had sent him. One afternoon, a video call request flashed on her phone. The caller ID read Jonas. Her fingers shook as she tapped accept. On the screen, Jonas appeared, his grin wide and eyes bright. "Hey, Mara," he said. "Thanks for the box." It meant everything. They talked for hours. They shared stories of new friends, new routines, and small victories. Jonas told her about the stars they had painted on his bedroom ceiling. Mara described the sunflower painting she was working on. With every word, the distance between them melted away. Mara realized that even though they lived far apart, their bond was stronger than any map could measure. That night, Mara lay in bed thinking about how courage had brought them back together. She had felt lost and unsure, but she had reached out anyway. Her human spirit, her hope, her persistence, and her willingness to be vulnerable had closed the gap. She drifted to sleep, knowing that tomorrow and every day after, they would rebuild their friendship bit by bit. No matter the miles, no matter the silence. Humanity's strength, her HFY, would always guide her home. Nina sat on the worn porch swing.
"You're rocking."
Slowly as the sun dipped below the rooftops, the air smelled of warm asphalt and cut grass, but her heart felt empty. Her brother, Keon, had moved across the ocean 3 months ago to start college. Before he left, they spent countless afternoons talking and laughing under this very oak tree. Now the tree's leaves whispered secrets she could no longer hear. Each morning, Nina opened her phone with hope. She stared at their chat history, the messages frozen in time, full of stickers and inside jokes. She tapped on Keon's name, then backed out again. What could she write that he hadn't already heard? "Hi, how are you?" Felt hollow. She tried sending him a photo of her new sketchbook, but the message stayed unread. Her thumb hovered over the microphone icon, but she could not press it. She did not know how to bridge the miles. At school, Nina's friends noticed her quiet mood. They invited her to hang out after class, but she declined. She was afraid laughter without Keon beside her would feel empty. In art class, she painted gray skies and lone figures images of her loneliness. Still, each brushstroke thrummed with a faint pulse of hope. She thought of the stories Keon told her when they were children's stories of explorers who faced vast unknowns and still found their way home. If those heroes could endure, she could too. One Friday evening, Nina walked to the old bookstore where she and Keon used to browse dusty shelves. The bell chimed as she entered in the familiar scent of paper and binding glue wrapped around her. She ran her fingers along the spines until she found a leather-bound journal. Its cover was etched with a compass rose. She opened the first page and wrote, "Dear Keon, I miss you every day. I feel lost without your voice beside mine. I want to hear about your new world." She left space for drawings, stickers, and pressed petals little pieces of home. That night, Nina tackled her fear. She recorded her voice reading a poem she wrote about two stars separated by the sky. It's always reaching for each other's light. Her voice trembled a bit, but she spoke the words with honest hope. She saved the audio file and attached it to an email titled "A Letter from Home." Then she pressed send. As the message whooshed away into the digital expanse, Nina held her breath, imagining Keon opening it on the other side of the world. Days passed like slow-moving clouds. Nina kept busy by helping her mother in the garden. She planted bright marigolds and mint, hoping to send their fresh scent along with the journal. Every evening, she tiptoed to the mailbox, but it stayed empty still. She did not give up. She remembered the explorer's motto, "Brave hearts find their way." She painted a small compass on her bedroom wall, red for her own courage and blue for Keon's guiding presence. Then, on a gray Thursday morning, Nina found an envelope tucked inside the mailbox. Her name was scrawled in Keon's familiar hand. Inside was a letter filled with news of his first months abroad, the friends he had made, the books he had discovered, and the tiny coffees he now loved. He wrote that her poem had made him cry in a good way and that he had taped it above his desk to remind him of home. He promised to write every week and asked her to send more sketches. Tears of joy blurred Nina's vision as she held the letter to her heart. The distance that had loomed so large now felt smaller than a map's margin. She ran her fingers over the compass on her wall, smiling at the proof that hope can travel vast oceans. That day, she drew a new picture for Keon, two stars reaching. Across blue waves, hands almost touching, she tucked it into a sealed envelope, ready to send it on the next breeze. Weeks later, Nina and Keon settled into a steady rhythm of letters and packages. Their friendship, tested by time and distance, shone brighter than ever. Nina learned that speaking honestly, even when she felt afraid, was the most human thing she could do. Each letter she wrote carried a piece of herself across continents, and every reply she received reminded her that no matter how far apart they were, the bond they shared could not be broken. In her heart, she carried the promise of reunion and the human spirit's unyielding hope. Ethan stared at the empty chair across from him in the little coffee shop. He and Marisol used to meet here every Sunday afternoon. They laughed over shared stories, planned trips, and talked about their dreams. But Marisol had moved to another city 6 months ago, chasing a new job opportunity. Since then, Ethan felt like half of him was missing. Each morning he woke up with a hollow ache, and each evening he thought of her warm smile. He wanted to reach out, but he did not know how. To close the gap that felt wider every day, at first Ethan tried calling Marisol every few weeks. He would dial her number, rehearse his words, then hang up before she could pick up. What if I bother her? He worried. What if she is too busy? The unanswered texts piled up on his phone, each one a reminder of his growing fear. Saw their old photos on social media, her at a gallery opening, him at a rock concert. Likes and comments filled the posts, but he felt invisible behind the screen. If they could share coffees face to face, he thought, it would be easier. But thousands of miles stretched between them now. Ethan tried to distract himself. He took long runs by the river, letting the wind clear his mind. He planted herbs on his balcony, imagining fresh basil and mint. He volunteered at the animal shelter, rescuing lonely cats and dogs. Yet, in the quiet moments, he heard Marisol's laugh echo in his memory. He remembered how she once told him that hope was like a lantern in the dark, small, but strong enough to guide you home. He held onto that image tightly, letting it light his courage. One evening, Ethan found a stack of old postcards in a drawer. Each card was from places he and Marisol had visited together: the seaside town with cliffside views, the mountain village where they hiked under starry skies. On one bright yellow card, she had written 2 more adventures together. Smiled through tears, he decided to use those postcards again. He would send Marisol a new message in a familiar way, one that reminded her of their shared past. He dug out brightly colored markers, stickers, and washi tape. On the first postcard he wrote, "Dear Marisol, I miss our Sunday coffees more. Then I can say I hope you are well in your new city." He decorated the edges with little doodles of coffee cups and tiny hearts. On the next card, he drew the winding river where they had kayaked, with 2 small boats side by side. He wrote, "Every paddle I take, I think of you cheering me on." He filled 3 postcards in this way, each one holding a piece of his memories and his hope. At the post office, Ethan handed the postcards to the clerk and watched her stamp them. He felt his heart pound with a mix of fear and relief. The postcards would travel across highways, fields, and rivers until they reached Marisol. He imagined her opening the mailbox, finding his colorful notes, and feeling the warmth of his words. Sending those cards felt like the first brave step toward reconnecting. Days passed slowly. Ethan returned to his routine of runs and shelter visits, but now his steps felt lighter. He pictured Marisol reading his postcards and smiling. Then on a bright morning, his phone buzzed with an image message. It was from Marisol. A photo of the 3 postcards pinned to her corkboard, surrounded by fresh flowers. The caption, she wrote, "Ethan, these mean the world to me. Let's set up a video call this weekend." His breath caught. Her hope matched his own. On Sunday, Ethan brewed his best coffee, poured it into his favorite mug, and settled by his laptop. When Marisol's face appeared on the screen, her eyes bright and her smile wide, Ethan felt the distance vanish. Talked for hours, sharing new stories and old memories. She showed him her new apartment walls covered with art, and he gave her a tour of his balcony garden. They planned a visit, marking dates on their calendars and dreaming of the day they would sit in that same coffee shop again. After the call ended, Ethan leaned back in his chair, heart full. He had faced his fear and reached out with honesty and hope. His human spirit, his HFY, had driven him to take small, brave steps toward reconnection. The miles no longer felt insurmountable. He knew that as long as they held on to their shared memories and nurtured their hope, no distance could keep them apart. And in that knowing, he found peace. Jonas sat on the edge of the old wooden pier, watching the sun melt into the horizon like gold spilling into the sea. He kept his phone in his pocket, its screen dark and silent. Before Mia moved to the city, they met here every evening. They shared secrets about school, dreams of travel, and hopes for the future.
Ow.
The pier was quiet, and Jonas's world felt half empty. He wanted to call her. But what could he say that would close the miles between them? On Monday morning, Jonas tried sending a text. He typed, "Hey Mia, how are things?" Then he deleted it. It sounded too plain, too like all the other messages she ignored. He remembered how she used to laugh when he sent her silly selfies. Wearing goofy hats, maybe if he sent one now, she would smile. He rummaged through his desk drawer and found the purple fedora they had bought at the summer fair. He put it on his head and snapped a photo, grinning widely. His thumb hovered over send, but he hesitated again. At school, Jonas sat in math class, but numbers and formulas blurred together. He doodled a bridge in the margin of his notebook, 2 figures meeting in the middle. His teacher called on him, and he stammered through the answer. After class, his friend Leo asked him what was wrong. Jonas shrugged and said he missed someone. Leo leaned close and whispered, "Then show her you care. Do something only you can do." Jonas nodded, not sure what that meant, but the words echoed in his mind like a spark. That afternoon, Jonas walked home by the riverside path. He watched families picnic under willows and couples walk hand in hand. He felt the ache of emptiness in his chest. Then he remembered Mia's favorite poem about hope rising like the dawn. Jonas had written a poem for her on her last birthday, and she had kept it in her journal. He pulled out a fresh page in his own sketchbook and began writing. A boat sails through night, guided by your light. He added lines about the moon and distant stars, words that came straight from his heart. When the poem was done, Jonas looked at it and felt a warmth spread through him. He took a clear plastic folder from his backpack and slid the page inside. Then he drew simple sketches around the edges, small boats, lanterns, and a bridge. We wrote a note at the top. "For Miyasu, she knows I still believe in our bridge." He felt his courage grow. This time, he would not wait for her to reach out. He would build his own bridge of words and art. That evening, Jonas left the poem and drawings at the post office. He asked the clerk to send it with special delivery. As he walked away, he imagined Mia opening the envelope, seeing his words mirrored in her eyes. He thought of her reading by lamplight, a soft smile curving her lips. For the first time in weeks, Jonas felt hope blossom inside him. He realized that when you care deeply, distance becomes a challenge you can face, not an obstacle that stops. 2 days later, Jonas sat again on the pier, but this time his phone buzzed. He opened a message from Mia, a picture of the drawing pinned on her bedroom wall. She had written beneath it, "Jonas, your bridge reached me. Thank you for never giving up." His heart leaped. He typed back quickly, "I'm so glad. One miss. Let's plan a video call." Her reply came almost at once. "Yes. Let's meet this Saturday."
Jonas smiled so wide that people walking by turned to look.
The emptiness he felt before had been replaced by warmth and possibility. On Saturday, Jonas set up his laptop at home and made a cup of hot chocolate, Mia's favorite. When her face appeared on the screen light behind her, he waved the purple fedora. She laughed and tipped a small party hat she had made for him. They talked for hours, sharing stories of new friends, new places, and small victories. Jonas told her about the poem and how writing it had felt like building his own bridge back to her. Mia told him that reading his words had reminded her of home as they said goodnight. Jonas looked at the dark window and thought of the pier ahead. The same pier where sadness once sat beside him now felt like a place of promise. He realized that the human spirit, our HFY, was not just about grand victories. It was in the small acts of hope, art, and honesty. He drifted to sleep believing that no matter how far away someone might go, a brave heart and a hopeful word could always reach across the distance and bring them home. Lena sat at her kitchen table, tracing the grain of the wood with her fingertips. Outside, the late afternoon sun shone through the window, but inside her heart felt gray. Her best friend Olivia had moved to another country for work 5 months ago. They used to bake cookies here every Sunday, talking about everything under the sun. Now, the oven was cold and silent. Lena wanted to reach out, but each time she picked up her phone, the words stuck in her throat. "I miss you." Felt too small. She did not know how to reconnect. That night, Lena lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Memories of laughter and shared secrets flipped through her mind like pages of a photo album. She thought of how Olivia always encouraged her to follow her dreams. Lena had wanted to write, but fear held her back. Now she realized if Olivia could take a leap across the ocean, she could take a leap with her own words. The next morning, she sat up and made a plan. She would write Olivia a story, one that would carry her feelings across the miles. Lena opened her laptop and created a new document titled "A Journey of Two Hearts." She wrote in simple sentences. Once there were two friends who lived in a small town. Yes, they shared cookies, dreams, and hopes. One day, one friend left to explore new lands. The other felt lost, but she did not give up. She used her courage and hope to send a message that crossed the sea. As she typed, her fingers trembled. Each word felt like a small step toward Olivia. She paused, then added, "True friendship is stronger than any distance." After writing the story, Lena printed it and folded the pages into a bright red envelope. She decorated the outside with hand-drawn hearts and a small globe. Showing two tiny figures holding hands across continents, feeling both nervous and excited, she walked to the post office. As she dropped the envelope into the mailbox, she whispered, "May this reach you soon?" The postal clerk waved and said, "Good luck." Lena smiled. Hope had already begun to warm her spirit. Back home, Lena placed a small box on her desk. Inside, she arranged a jar of homemade cookie mix, a painted rock from the beach they visited together, and a pressed flower from her garden. She added a note, "Bake these when you need a piece of home. Plant this rock on your windowsill so you remember our seaside day. Keep this flower to feel my care." She snapped a photo of the box and sent it to Olivia with the message, "My gift is on the way." Even before Olivia replied, Lena felt proud for acting on her hope. Days passed slowly. Each morning, Lena checked her email and the mailbox. She kept busy by drafting short poems, working in her garden, and volunteering at the local library. Still, she wondered if Olivia would respond. One afternoon, as she watered her marigolds, her phone buzzed. An email from Olivia's address glowed on the screen. Lena's hands shook as she opened it. Olivia wrote, "Lena, your story moved me to tears in the best way. I felt your voice in every sentence. Package arrived yesterday and the cookie mix smells like our kitchen. I baked a batch and shared them with my new neighbors, telling them about you. The rock sits on my desk and the flower pressed in. My journal. Thank you for reminding me that friendship can bridge any ocean. Let's plan a video chat this weekend." Lena read the words again and again, her heart soaring. That Saturday, Lena brewed tea and sat before her laptop. When Olivia's smiling face appeared on the video call, Lena felt the distance vanish. They talked for hours, sharing new stories and old jokes. Lena read her poem about two stars shining on separate skies but guiding each other's light. Olivia held up a copy of the printed story, turning the pages as if they were a treasured book. They planned a visit for the holidays, marking dates on a calendar and dreaming of baking cookies together again. After the call ended, Lena leaned back, eyes shining with happiness. She had faced her fear and reached out with honest words and small acts of care. Her human spirit, her HFY, had filled her with courage and hope. She realized that when you care deeply, you must act bravely.
Yes.
Distance could not stop her. As the evening light faded, Lena knew that no matter where life took them, her friendship with Olivia would always find a way to shine across the miles. Ava woke to the soft hum of her alarm and lay still for a moment. Leo's laughter instead. Every morning he had called her with a new joke before she got out of bed. But since he moved to another country 8 months ago, her phone stayed quiet. Ava felt an ache in her chest whenever she thought of him. The miles between them felt like a wall she could not climb. She loved Leo like a brother, and she missed him terribly, but she did not know how to reach him. At work, Ava tried to keep busy. She arranged flowers in the shop, watered the vines in the greenhouse, and smiled at every customer. Yet even the bright colors of tulips and daisies could not chase away her sadness. She glanced at the empty stool behind the counter, where Leo used to help her wrap bouquets. She remembered how he would tease her about her careful ribbons and make her laugh by tying silly knots. Now the stool sat unused, and Ava felt alone. That evening, Ava went for a walk in the park where she and Leo used to meet after work. The path was lined with cherry blossoms, petals drifting like pink snow. She sat on their favorite bench and closed her eyes. In her mind, she could hear Leo's voice telling her to keep going, to believe in herself. A memory warmed her heart. He had once said, "Hope is like a seed you plant it, and it will grow even in hard soil." Ava opened her notebook and wrote those words at the top of a fresh page. Ava thought, maybe she could plant hope. She had a small sewing machine at home and loved making quilts. An idea sparked in her mind. We'd make Leo a quilt one block. For every memory they shared, each patch would carry a story. She sketched designs for a flower patch remembering their first day in the shop, a book patch for the time they read together, and a star patch for their late-night talks. She felt her heart lift as she planned each square. This was something only she could give. The next morning, Ava gathered colorful fabric scraps and set up her sewing machine at the kitchen table. She worked carefully, sewing each patch with tiny, hopeful stitches. As she sewed, she whispered to the quilt her stories and her longing. "I miss your jokes. I miss your smile. I believe in us." The quilt grew bright and warm. The act of making it filled Ava with a fierce sense of purpose. She realized that even though she felt lost, she could reach across the distance with her own two hands. The quilt was finished. Ava folded it gently and placed it in a long box. She wrote a letter on simple stationery. "Dear Leo, I wrapped our memories in this quilt. Each square holds a moment we shared. I hope it brings you comfort and reminds you that you are never far from my heart. I believe our friendship can grow stronger, no matter the distance." She sealed the box and took it to the post office, sending it with international loved one shipping. As she watched the clerk stamp the package, Ava felt a surge of hope bloom inside her chest. 2 weeks later, Ava found a video message waiting on her phone from Leo. Her hands trembled as she tapped play. On the screen, Leo sat wrapped in her quilt, his eyes bright with tears. He smiled widely and said, "Ava, this is the most beautiful gift I have ever received. I feel you here with me, even across the ocean." He held up the quilt proudly and showed it to the camera, pointing at each patch and telling a story. Ava's heart soared. She realized that her courage to reach out had built a new bridge between them. That night, Ava lay in bed, smiling. She had turned her sadness into hope. Using her own skills and her human spirit, her HFY too reached Leo. She learned that even a small act of love can travel great distances. As she drifted to sleep, she felt confident that no matter how far apart they were, their friendship would always bring them back together. Ravi sat in the quiet of his room, listening to the hum of the ceiling fan. The walls around him felt too small and empty. His friend Sarah had moved to another city 8 months ago, chasing a chance to study art. Since then, Ravi's world felt dull. They used to meet at the old cafe every Friday and talk for hours about stories and dreams. Now the chair across from him stayed empty. He longed to hear Sarah's soft laugh and see her bright eyes again, but he did not know how to reach her. Each morning, Ravi opened his laptop, staring at Sarah's name in his contacts. He wanted to send her a message, but simple words felt weak. "How are you?" sounded like all the messages she ignored. He remembered how she once told him that honesty was the best way to bridge any gap. So he tried writing, "I miss you." He paused. That felt too small, too vague. He wanted to send something that carried his feelings, something that showed how much he cared. At work, Ravi helped his father in the family bakery. The scent of fresh bread and sugar usually cheered him, but these days even that felt ordinary. He watched his father knead dough and wondered if Sarah was in a crowded classroom surrounded by paint and ideas. He wanted to share the smell of vanilla buns with her, just as they used to share cookies and stories. He decided he would send her a taste of home. That evening, Ravi baked a batch of vanilla and saffron cupcakes, Sarah's favorite flavors. He carefully placed each cupcake in a box lined with wax paper. Then he wrote a letter on bright blue paper, a flowing handwriting. He described the bakery's new morning crowd. It's a bakery cat that had adopted them, and the golden cupcakes, waiting to be shared. He wrote, "Every time I bake these, I think of you. I hope these sweet bites bring you a piece of home." He sealed the letter and boxes together and took them to the post office. When Ravi dropped the package off, he felt both nervous and hopeful. He realized he had taken a brave step, sending his feelings in the form of comfort and care. Back home, he placed a small sketch he had drawn of the bakery on his desk. It showed 2 friends sitting at a small table, sharing cupcakes under a bright window. He pinned it to his wall, a reminder that hope could guide him when he felt lost. Days passed and Ravi tried to stay busy. He practiced writing short stories, hoping to one day share them with Sarah. He helped his father in the evenings and read books borrowed from the library. Still, each night he checked his email in the mailbox, waiting for news. He remembered Sarah's words about honesty and decided to send a second note, a quick text that said, "I'm here when you're ready." Then he waited again, trusting in the strength of his own hope. One warm afternoon, a video message appeared on Ravi's phone. His heart leaped as he saw Sarah's face on the screen. She sat in a small room filled with canvases and brushes, her hair tucked behind her ear. "Ravi," she said, smiling softly, "thank you for the cupcakes. They arrived today, and they tasted exactly like I remembered." She held up a cupcake and took a small bite on camera. "I felt at home for a moment." Ravi smiled so wide that he felt his cheeks hurt. "I'm glad," he replied in the video. "I missed you." Sarah explained that she had been overwhelmed by her studies and had not known how to respond. She had kept Ravi's letter on her desk, reading it when she felt lonely. "Your words gave me strength," she said. Then she asked if they could set a time to talk live. Ravi agreed, and they set a date for their first video call. On the evening of their call, Ravi cleaned the small table in his room and placed a cupcake on a plate. When Sarah's face appeared on his laptop, Ravi held up the cupcake. She laughed and held up her own. They ate together, sharing stories of new routines and old memories. Ravi told her about the bakery cat's new habit of sleeping on the front counter. Sarah showed him a painting she was working on, a landscape of the bakery under starlight. They talked for hours as if no distance had ever existed. After the call ended, Ravi sat back, heart full. He realized that his human spirit, his HFY, had guided him to act with honesty and hope. He had taken small, brave steps, baking cupcakes, writing letters, and sharing his feelings. Those acts of care had reached Sarah's heart. In that moment, Ravi knew that no matter how far someone traveled, the bonds of friendship could always be rekindled by courage and love. And with that truth in his heart, he felt hopeful for every friendship yet to be saved. Zoe walked down the quiet street at dawn, the sky still soft with pink light. Each morning she passed the old lamppost where Alex used to wait for her on their way to school. Now the lamppost stood alone, and Zoe's heart felt heavy. Alex had moved to another town 6 months ago, following a parent's new job. The miles between them had widened with each passing day, and Zoe did not know how to reach him. She tried sending simple texts. "Good morning, how was your day?" But Alex's replies came slower and shorter until they stopped altogether. Zoe stared at her phone, the blank screen echoing her loneliness. She remembered how they used to laugh together over silly jokes, how Alex would cheer her on when she felt afraid. Zoe wanted that closeness back, but she felt too timid to push further. At the small cafe where they once shared hot chocolate, Zoe bought 2 cups and sat at their old table. She wrapped her hands around the warm mug and closed her eyes. Could almost hear Alex's voice, teasing her about her marshmallows melting too fast. The memory brought a sad smile to her face. Then her hope flared. Maybe she could send Alex something more than words. Zoe returned home and opened her laptop. She searched for the songs they both loved as kids' classic tunes that had played in her parents' living room. She built a playlist called Morning Walks with Alex. Each song carried a memory. The first track was the pop song they had danced to in the school gym. Another was the gentle piano piece they listened to on a rainy afternoon. When the playlist was done, she wrote a message, "I made this for us. I hope it brings back our morning walks." She pressed send. Days passed, and Zoe waited. She kept busy by volunteering at the local animal shelter and by finishing a painting of the lamppost and 2 figures walking side by side. But each evening she checked her messages, her heart in her throat. One afternoon, her phone buzzed. The playlist had a new follower, Alex, and beneath it, a short message. "Thank you. These songs mean a lot." Zoe's relief was almost dizzying. She replied simply, "I miss you." Alex's next message arrived soon after, "I miss you too." They agreed to meet on a video call that Saturday morning. Zoe set up her phone at the cafe table and made 2 cups of hot tea. When Alex's face appeared on the screen, Zoe felt tears of joy. They talked for hours, sharing stories of new routines and old memories. Alex told Zoe about the big city street where he now caught the bus. Zoe described the animals she was helping. At the shelter, they laughed as if no distance existed. When the call ended, Zoe realized that her small act of hope, the playlist, had built a bridge between them. Buoyed by this success, Zoe found another way to reach out. She wrote and mailed a handwritten letter on bright yellow paper. Inside, she drew a map showing her town and Alex's, with a dotted line connecting them. She wrote, "No matter how far apart we are, I believe our friendship will always guide us back together." She sent it with a bookmark featuring a picture of the lamppost and 2 footprints. A week later, Zoe found a letter in her mailbox. It was Alex's reply on green paper. He wrote about his new school and the tall buildings outside his window. He told her how the bookmark hung beside his desk lamp, reminding him of home. At the bottom of the letter, Alex wrote, "One day, soon, I will come back, and we will walk under that lamppost again." Zoe's chest swelled with hope and pride in her own courage. Each night after that, Zoe kept her lantern lit by the window, a small symbol of her HFY spirit, her fearless belief in the power of human connection. She painted a second picture, this time of herself and Alex under the lamppost with lanterns in their hands. She hung it above her bed to remind her that hope always casts light into the darkness. Months later, Alex surprised her with an in-person visit. He stepped onto the familiar sidewalk in the soft glow of the lamppost. Zoe ran forward, and they embraced, laughter and tears mingling together. As they walked side by side under the gentle light, Zoe felt that the miles they had crossed were nothing compared to the strength of their bond. Her simple acts of courage and hope had brought Alex home. In that moment, Zoe understood that the true power of the human spirit lies in small, brave steps. When you care deeply, you find ways to reach out, even across oceans. No distance could break the connection they shared. And as they continued down the street together, Zoe knew that hope, her HFY, would always guide her home.